What's up, guys? I'm TheSwolefessor. Meat day.
Let's go,
and your boy's ready. This meat is from.
We got something to do. We got to do something bigger than this. Let's go. Let's get in. Let's get in.
Come on.
Squat.
Quit playing with me, man! Let's go!
Start. Press.
Let's go up!
Back.
Let's go.
Let's go! Start! Press!
Yeah.
Oh, you come on! Let's go! Right! Let's go, man! Come on! Yeah! Let's go! Up! Easy slide, bro. You don't even want to. Come on!
What's up, guys? I'm Williams, aka TheSwolefessor, education on health and social well-being. And you guys already saw yesterday's workout, which is the heaviest SBD session of the prep, because we're 3 weeks out. We're just gonna get through the rest of this normal training week as it's laid out. Then for the last block, it's basically just gonna be a quick 2-week block where we're building into the meet. You guys know that I pushed my highest exertion on week 3, so that's the way that it's lined up going into the meet. So week 1 of next block will just be nice, easy, like, you know, RP 5 to 6 work. Week 2, some easy RP7 work, taper, and then my meet will fall on the week 3 primary, essentially. So that's gonna work out great. As far as yesterday, it was almost a perfect day. So first, I'm just gonna give you guys a little bit of background in terms of like how Brad and I kind of laid things out with what the approach was going to be. Pretty much, I wanted yesterday to pretty much be set up the way that meet day will be in terms of like the lows that I went for, with the exception of the fact that of course I still had back down volume, right? So which we have to account for when it comes to fatigue and everything like that as that gets tapered off going into the meet. But pretty much with that being said, it's this thing where essentially my second to last warm-ups were all around where my opener is going to be for both the bench squat and deadlift. My last warm-ups were all around range of what I expect a second attempt to be. And then my top sets were all pretty much within range of what I'm expecting my thirds to be. Now you guys already know when it comes to meet day, we don't just go in and just fill things out randomly. We have a plan. Like the way I like to go about it is usually having like an option 3A, 3B, and 3C. 3A is the highest end you go for no matter what. Even if you're feeling better, like to take more than that, it's the highest end you go for just to ensure that you put up a good number for that lift, right? And it's one of those things where it's usually based upon like, you know, the best that you hit in training. Your 3As are gonna be like around what you hit as the highest in training, or maybe a little bit more than that if you expect to get a little bit out of your peak and taper, right? So with that being the case, that's around what 3As usually are. 3B is usually like your just normal plan third. It's like, okay, if we're not feeling like God tier, if we're feeling good and everything goes well, we should be able to hit 3B. And then 3C is if things are feeling bad or something crazy does happen with your second where you have to adjust and kind of have a contingency plan. That's what 3C is for. Then of course, with second attempts, I like to have 2 options. 2A is just your normal plan second, everything goes well with the opener, and it pretty much needs to be heavy enough to gauge what's left for your third, but not so heavy to where it tanks you for your third. And then option 2B is a contingency in case anything weird happens with your opener, you just want to play a little bit safer. Usually if if I or a client goes with option 2A and it moves well, then you can choose from 3A to 3C for your third. But if for whatever reason you go with option 2B, then usually you don't go for any higher than 3B just to be smart and play it safe. So that's the way that things were set up, right? So breaking down each lift with the squat, 210 kg, 463 pounds is what I went for my, opener for the day. And, jumping from that to the 230, 507 really is nothing because I've made bigger jumps than that before. I've jumped from 440 to 501, 440 to 507. So jumping from 463 to 507 was pretty mindless. If anything, the jump from 3 res to 463 was kind of the bigger jump. I usually would take 419 in between 375 and 463. I just didn't yesterday. I was just kind of zoned in. So there was that, but it moved really, really well. Then went to the 507, which also felt good on my back. I oversank it a little bit, which made it a little bit harder than what it needed to be. So that's why, if we had a range of 3A to 3B to 3C, 3A would have been 545 pounds, 245 kg. 3B would be 242.5 kg, which is 533 pounds or something like that, or 534. And then 240 kg, what I actually ended up hitting for my top set was pretty much option 3C, the lower end. And even hitting that lower end sets me up for a 700 kg day, because that was the goal for yesterday's training, was to go in and hit 700 kg at this lighter body weight of 170 pounds so that we can see, is this something that we think we're gonna be within reach of come meet day, especially as I'll be competing 5 pounds lighter at 165. Obviously my best training total is I think 707.5 kg. And I hit that weighing 175, 176. So I had to take that into account, and it's this thing where I'm not focused on the best numbers I've ever hit because I know what the different circumstances are as far as my weight. So the goal is kind of come in here and hit the best numbers that I ever have at this current body weight. So after the second attempt, even though I knew it was more of a misgroove of just oversinking it, I just wanted to play it safe. I wanted to be smart and not completely nuke myself for a bench or deadlift. So I just went with option 3C, 529 pounds, and it moved great. It moved better than the second attempt, and it moved in such a way where I know I have more than this. I definitely can squat 540. And if I'm feeling the way I did yesterday or better, which I should be feeling better come meet day, I should definitely be able to squat around that 540, 545 range. Even though my best is 556, I just don't see a need to try to push for 550 or plus. I'd rather just take what I know for sure will be there so I can save room in the tank to execute on bench and deadlift. So I was honestly really happy with squats. I was really hyped. And speaking of hype, I didn't take any pre-workout yesterday. You guys know that I only take pre-workouts on my primary SBD days, but a few days before, I kid you guys not, I was just chilling, taking a shower, And I just had the thought of I should not take pre-workout this upcoming primary day. And I'm glad I didn't, because it's this thing where as hot as it is right now here in Texas, like it's getting close like to the 100 degrees, and the fact that there's so many people in there and that caffeine really tends to make me kind of like overheat. And then sometimes, like, you know, if I take pre-workout, even mind you, because I used to take 100%, which one of the reasons why I like it is because it doesn't really upset my stomach. But when I'm just super hyped and internally wired already, and then I take caffeine on top of that, I get overheated, my stomach feels weird, I just can't zone in the way I want. It's just all this extra energy that I don't necessarily need. So I decided to, you know, forego it yesterday, and I think it was the right move. I really feel like if I would have taken pre-workout yesterday, I probably just would have thrown it up, to be honest. But the hype was still there, energy was still very high. I was very happy with squats. For my back down set, I did the first back down set with a 20% drop, since my range is 12 to 20% for the percentage drop for my back downs on my primary day, with 430 pounds for a back down triple. But since the RP cap for my back downs was RP7, I knew after that first set that, like, if I keep doing this weight, the exertion is gonna get too high. So I then dropped it down to 407 pounds for my remaining back down triples. And even then I knew if I like, you know, push these back downs too heavy, it's gonna completely take me for bench and deadlifts. And even with scaling them, I still knew that, yep, I'm under a lot of fatigue right now. So we'll see how bench and deadlifts go, right? But got to the back downs, everything felt pretty good. Bench, you know, same approach. I realized actually last week with my last warm up on bench being 308, then jumping right to 358 and how well 358 moved. I thought about that and compared it to last block singles, when I, you know, hit like 352 as my last warm up, then tried to see if 374 would be there, and ended up just taking 369, how hard that moved. And I just realized that with my long range of motion and like that, you know, the amount of fatigue that I'm usually under in training, that, you know, just like the squat, that like bigger jumps are better for me. And even though 352 to 374 is already kind of a big jump for a lot of people, for me, it's not as big a jump. So this time around, after taking 308, which is around where I'll be opening, I went to 341, which is what I plan to take for my second attempt, and it moved well. It moved well enough to where, okay, this is once again heavy enough for me to gauge what's left for my third attempt, anywhere from like, you know, 363 to 374, but it's not so much weight to where if I hit this, it's gonna nerf me to where I can't even go for 374 if I want to, the way that 352 did last block. So 341 moved extremely well, you know, once again, with commands, because my big goal was to come in and train a comp standard with commands. I had you know, my client Elisha, who's actually a judge, watching from the side on squats, things like that, getting very strict commands, and 341 flew, and I felt very confident that yes, 374 will go down. Mind you, I have not touched that weight since before my last meet, and I haven't touched that weight, you know, this light ever. But I felt very confident for it, and it was the perfect call. That's definitely like, you know, that was the 3A, you know, 3B would have been 369, 3C, 363. And my best in meet is 2.5, and my best, like, you know, in training is 380 on a fat pad and 374 on the TSS bench. But that was the most confident I ever felt with that in my hands, regardless of body weight. Like when I unracked it, I was just like automatically already knew, like, yeah, I got this. I'm not failing this. There's no way. It might be hard. It might not, you know, be like a smooth grind, but I've got this. Had very strict commands from Charles. Drove through it, and at no point did I feel like, oh man, I don't know if I've got this. Felt very confident with this. So I was very, very happy with how bench went, especially since, like I said, squat back downs kind of take my back a little bit, but I still feel like I was in a good place. Deadlifts, honestly, in terms of setup and positioning, feel fantastic. As you guys might have noticed last video, you know, my setup is still what it has been. Like, you know, I'm setting my brakes at the top, arms long, hinging down to the bar, getting the slack out. The only thing is, instead of getting the slack out, wedging right into it, then driving off the floor, once I grab the bar and kind of get the slack out, I do a slight hip shoot, just a very slight one. I raise my hips to just get that last little bit of slack out while I'm pressing to the floor, and doing so also allows me to really cue extending my back even more once I wedge into position, and it just puts me in a much better position off the floor. And it's funny because for the longest time, you know, before I got all these other mechanics down, when I would hip shoot, it would just throw my position off more, but now that I have these other aspects of my deadlift down, it only helps. And that's just a good learning lesson for anybody. Like, sometimes something you're trying or cueing isn't necessarily bad, but if you don't have other mechanics around the lift down first, it might cause more harm than good. Whereas when you do get those mechanics down, that thing that you were doing that you thought was hindering you might actually help you be better. And that's what the case was for me. So 485 pounds is pretty much around like what I will be opening with, because you guys know I make very big jumps from, like, you know, that opener to second attempt range. And 45 moved mindlessly, as it should. And then I jumped from there to 573 pounds, which is around the range where my second attempt will probably be, 573 to 584, because as Brad and I discussed, last block when we hit that 611-pound pull. Hitting anything in the 600s, in the low 600s for a second, it's just absolutely going to fry me for trying to push for anything more on the third. So we're gonna make that bigger jump, right? So 573 moved really, really well. From there, you know, my range was pretty much anywhere from 285 kilos to 290 kilos. So 285 would have been like 628, 287 and a half would have been like 633, and then 290 that I went for was of course 640 pounds. As you guys saw, I did not get it. The good news is my positioning felt great. Like slack pull, wedge, drive through, everything felt good. Nothing that happened this time around was technical. It was just the fact that I just did not have the strength that day. Like I thought I would because the second moved really well and off the floor it felt good, but I was just taxed. My back at that point was very taxed. Keeping position and driving through was taxing, and it makes sense simply due to, you know, the amount of workload that I did with, like, you know, the squat top set, the back down work, and the bench back down. So after talking with Brad about it yesterday, we both still feel very confident that 640 should be able to go down on meet day, just because I won't have to worry about the fatigue factors of the back downs. I'll be tapered, I'll be feeling better. I always feel better on meet day, and no matter how my squat and bench may be feeling, my deadlift always 100% of the time feels better on meet day. It always peaks super, super well. And the good news is if I feel like I'll be able to squat more, like squat around, like say that 545 mark, so 245 kg, then I won't even have to go for 290. I'll be able to just go for like 285 kg, which would just match the best pull I've hit in comp already that I hit at my meet this past February. So we're gonna have options is the good news. So long as I execute well on the squat and take the highest end of what's there without going too crazy, nail the bench with the 374, then I should be able to pull what I need to pull to get a 700 kg total, as that is the main goal. Number one goal is of course trying to secure 700 kg total at 165. Number two goal is to beat Brian. Brian, if you're watching this, I know you are, we coming. It's actually pretty funny because Brian, like, he also pulled 640 a couple days ago and he smoked it. So he's out pulling me, no doubt, but we'll see how things play out with the total, right? But honestly, even with missing that pull, I was not upset at all, because I would have been more upset if it was something technical or if my position just felt off, because like, God, I still am not consistent with this, but I just did not have the strength for it that day. But it wasn't this thing where it felt so hard where I feel like, man, I'm not gonna have the strength for this even with the taper. I feel like I will, and I also feel like I may not even have to pull that much if squats come together the way that I want them to. Granted, I have to make sure that the wire cut goes well, that I weigh in right at 165 and not below it like I did last meet where I weighed in like 163, and then try to probably recount back up to at least around 170. If I can do that, we'll be good. Because I know the different factors that play into it, right? I'm already really, really lean, so then wire cutting never feels good. Recomping for me is usually hard post weigh-ins with only 2 hours, and I'm a lankier individual, the long range of motion, blah, 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 all these excuses, who cares? At the end of the day, I know what I need to do to maximize my total on the platform, and Brad and I both feel very confident I'm gonna be able to do so. And then of course, you know, belt squats were chilled. I did not feel like loading the bands up on it this time, so I just did a little bit more weight than what I usually would for a nice 3x8, and that felt great. So all in all, I'm happy with how yesterday went. I feel very, very confident. I feel way more confident actually at this point of prep than what I did at this point of prep last meet, which is huge and really, really good, especially with walking around lighter. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm just excited to go out there and get it done, man. Like I said, it's cool that I pretty much get to go on the first day, or at least the first day of, like, you know, the raw open lifters, not the junior lifters, because then I can go out there, do my thing, lead from the front, set the example, and then just focus on handling my lifters throughout the rest of the weeks. I will be handling every single day. Like, I'll be handling Charles after I compete that evening on Wednesday, and then I'll be handling every day, Thursday through Sunday, until Raw National's done. So it's gonna be a crazy week, but I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what my clients can do. I'm excited to see what I can do. And yeah, I mean, it was great. Pretty much it was like an 8 for 9 day, right? Now, obviously with the jumps I make, 8 for 9 days is gonna be a big chunk off my total if I don't hit those thirds because of how it's set up. But there's still time for Brad and I to refine some things with the deadlift. We kind of want to adjust how we go with the second based on how we think we're gonna feel. But ultimately, even though the goal is 700 kg, I'm going to just take what's there. I want to go 9 for 9. Like, if I know that, man, it's a 50-50 chance on me going 9 for 9 if I go for this 640 and get the 700 kg, whereas if I go for 5 kg less, I know I can get it. I'll just take that. It's still gonna be a PR on my total and at a lower body weight. So, you know, there'd be no complaints for me as far as that goes. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, I didn't really want to talk to you guys yesterday. I just want to kind of zone in and execute. And I feel like I did that to the best of my ability for the day. But I also just want to take the time to go through and give you guys a breakdown of my thoughts of each lift and how everything felt and how I'm feeling about prep in general. And I really feel like, despite the quick turnaround from my last meet and, you know, having to get used to walking around this lighter body weight and just getting used to all these life transitions with, you know, being a dad, my current client workload, everything like that, I'm blessed, man. We're out here, we're doing it. We're getting it done regardless. And I'm excited to see what we can do in 3 weeks. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go and leave a comment down below, let me know what you did. If you're not, leave a comment down below, let me know what can get better. Like the video, share, subscribe. Keep it simple, specific, scientific. I'll catch you guys later.